Hello and welcome to the Gay Channel. I'm your host David, and today is a fantastic day today. It marks the beginning of Battle Reports resuming as normal, and I'm so pleased to announce that we have two returners, which I'm very pleased to have. We have Nick and Keith. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Now, lovely to have you both back. Now, you've been on before, you know the drill. I think this morning when we filmed our army list, we were one-take wonders, weren't we?
Flukily, yes. Won't last.
It's a good precedent to start, so really great to get these gents on. Now, we'll do the standard kind of introductions and various bits and bobs. Keith, tell us where you're from and what you've brought today.
I'm from Essex. I've brought my Sons of Horus with me. Long march list that I've been planning for ages. Yeah. And I've finally got a chance to get on the table.
Amazing. Now, we're quite lucky because Keith is doing a weekender with us, aren't you?
I am.
You've foolishly agreed to stay here for 2 days, which is quite madness considering the heat that we're under. Yeah. But you're going to stay at a local hotel tonight and then you're up for a game with your Wolves tomorrow.
I am. Bringing the Wolves back on the channel. Hopefully they do better than last time. So,
yeah.
Killing something would actually be beneficial this time.
Yeah, we've got some new units, but we'll talk about them tomorrow when we play the game against the Alpha Legion. And Nick, you've brought your really lovely fist back onto the channel. Tell us about where you're from.
So from South London, had a fun journey up in the rain this morning. Got a little bit hairy, but we're here, we're safe.
Excellent. And we've provided a good time and we've got an amazing 2,500 point game for your viewing pleasure. Gents, before we go any further, though, it is worth mentioning that both of these armies are spectacular. So I really hope the photos will do them justice. We've done the army showcase a little bit different as well today. I've done them all in situ, which I think looks quite cool because you've got those units kind of behind the ones that were filmed. So I think it looks really cool. So thanks for doing that. Now, before we get into the list and the mission and everything else, there's 2 issues which we're going to address, one for each army. Keith, we've got a little conversation about Dreadclaw drop pods.
Yeah, so the Sons of Horus can take a Dreadclaw drop pod as a dedicated transport for vets. I think it's vets and Justarian, things like that. They're 100 points, but they don't get inertial dampers. Is that right?
Inertial guidance system.
Guidance system, not dampers.
Same thing, though.
Yeah. But I've taken them as a fast attack. They're 15 points more, but you get the benefits of that. So, yeah.
So it's a bit tricky because there's a little bit of overlap between books and it's like, what do you take? But you also mentioned this morning that you build your list with a 30-point deficit to test your opponent.
Yeah, I always do 30 points difference just so that everyone's normally fine with them as a dedicated transport and with the 15 points extra. But it's just in case they're not, I'd take them as a fast attack just to be safe.
I think it's a very sharing, caring attitude. So good on you. Nick, we've got some tricky issues with your Phalanx Warders as well. Talk to us about those.
Yeah, so my tricky issue, and I try and build this in with my opponent, is that I take a 90-man unit for 5 points, and I just assume that that's cool with everyone, and obviously if they decide otherwise.
What?
No, the Phalanx Warders are base weapon skill 4. With the bubble, the 12-inch bubble from the Herald, they get boosted to 5. Mm-hmm. And then because that actually says is up to 5. We just wanted to clarify if they were then charged, whether their shield wall rule still came into apply, whether they then get boosted to weapon skill 6. Which I think we've sort of come to a gentlemanly agreement is acceptable.
Yeah, we're happy at weapon skill 6 if you're charged and within range of the Herald. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Excellent. So it does mean you hit on 2s rather than 3s, though.
Yes.
Could be quite tasty. So that's what we're going with. If we're wrong, please include that a message to say, look, hey, this is how we play it, but that's our interpretation, and I think we're all comfortable, aren't we? We're all good to go.
I'll just get that other 90-man unit out.
So let's have a quick look. We'll talk about the mission deployment. Now, Nick graciously agreed to play the ambush scenario where he is in the middle of the board. So 10 points already for Nick there. So thank you so much for agreeing to do that. But I think it works for the mission, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the list I'd put together, when we were discussing it early on, we were talking about starting of a Centurion list, and then we've obviously tweaked that, and thought it would be nice to have a bit more of a narrative. So, the army has basically been left to strong point, an outpost. Most of the rest of the Fifth Army has gone off doing valiant things elsewhere.
Sure.
So there are some tanks in reserve, but basically the army are guys on the ground waiting to see what hits them.
Yeah, it looks great. And Keith, you're running a really elite Sons of Horus unit. Drop infantry looks good.
Yeah, I mean,
unit, sorry.
It kind of balances out. I'm very aggressive, very in your face.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of nice to have like the defensive line, and I'm having to break it. So I think it's kind of fits well with them. I've got a few drop pods coming down, and then I have the jump packs to charge in. So
yeah. I think the game is going to get quite aggressive quite quickly. Which is quite cool. And with regards to the board, I have done a board build video for this in Setting the Scene episode 16, I believe. So if you want to see how I built the board, go back and watch it. I took a lot of inspiration from Disney and Pride Rock, which is quite funny. So instead of lions defending Pride Rock, we've got Imperial Fists being attacked by the hyenas, which are the Sons of Horus. Oh, that kind of works.
But they are yellow.
Yes. I love it. What else is said? There is nothing much to say. The Imperial Fist deploy first, go first.
Absolutely.
Keith, are you going to seize?
I am going to have a go at seizing.
Now, the channel is historically bad for prepping seizes up, which is exactly the case in this point right now. So I'm going to come out of shot, and I'll just bring you a dice tray. Can I hand that to you? That's yours. Lovely. I appreciate you can't see this on camera, but we'll wish you luck.
Yeah.
Give us a roll.
Socially distanced 6.
Exactly. 4. It is a 4. All right. Well, that's interesting. So the fists will go first, but we'll go straight into the army showcase, and then we'll see you at the beginning of Imperial Fists Turn 1.
2,500 points of Sons of Horus, led by Praetor, using the Long March Rite of War, and his warlord trait is Paladin of Glory. First HQ for the Sons of Horus is Malagos the Twisted. He's got power armour, power sword, bolter with bane strike shells, refractor field, and he has the banner of the eye. Leading the Sons of Horus is a Praetor with artificer armour, digital lasers, iron halo, jump pack, paragon blade, and power fist. First troop choice is a veteran tactical squad. They are all armed with bolt guns and melter bombs, and they come with a rhino with a dozer blade and a multi-melter on top, and they are taking the resolve veteran tactic. The next troop choice is another veteran squad, 5 marines, 4 with combi melters, 1 with a melter gun. The sergeant has artificer armour. They all have melter bombs, and they are taking the machine killer veteran tactic. The melter vets will be arriving into battle in their Ambulance Dreadclaw drop pod. Next we have 15 Marine Reaver squad, all with jump packs. There's 11 chain axes, 2 power fists, 2 power swords. The chieftain comes with artificer armour and melter bombs. The first elite's choice is a 5 Marine Justarian squad. There is 2 chain fists, 2 lightning claws, 1 power fist, all with combi plasma. They will be arriving into battle in an Ambulance Dreadclaw drop pod. First of the heavy supports is a 10 Marine missile squad. The only upgrade is on the sergeant is an augury scanner. Next heavy support unit is a Leviathan siege dreadnought with a siege drill, volkite chargers, and armoured ceramite. He'll be arriving in a dreadnought drop pod.
2,500 points of Imperial Fists, led by a Legion Herald Consul with the Warlord trait World Burner. The Warlord is the Legion Herald Consul, wearing Cataphractii Terminator armour and carrying the banner of the Aquila and a chain fist. The second HQ choice is the Legion Master of Signals, wearing Artificer armour. The first elite's choice is a detachment of 2 apothecaries, both carrying chainswords, Narthesiums, and wearing Artificer armour. 1 joins the Phalanx Warders, and 1 joins the tactical squad with 20 members. The second elite's choice is a squad of Phalanx Warders. The Warder Sergeant carries a Solarite Power Gauntlet, and his squad carry 2 melter guns and 5 power axes. The third elite's choice is a Rapier weapons battery of 3 quad launchers, all equipped with shatter shells. The final elite's choice is a Contemptor Dreadnought Talon. The first dreadnought is equipped with 2 Kiri's pattern assault cannons. The second carries a dreadnought close combat weapon with a heavy flamer and a twin-link las cannon. The first troop's choice is a squad of 19 tactical marines carrying additional chainswords, and the sergeant wields a power fist and artificer armour. The second troop's choice is a full squad of 20 tactical marines carrying bolters and additional chainswords. Their sergeant also wields a power fist and artificer armour. The third troop's choice is a tactical support squad of 8 marines carrying flamers and chainswords. They ride to battle in a Rhino armoured carrier with a twin-link bolter. The army's fast attack choice is a squadron of 2 Sabre strike tanks, both armed with the Anvilus Snub autocannon, a heavy bolter and auxiliary drive. The army has a heavy support squad carrying las cannons, just 5 marines. The final heavy support choice is a Vindicator siege tank armed with a demolisher cannon, machine spirit and dozer blade. Imperial Fist's turn 1 movement. The double Kiri's dreadnought moved around from behind the silo to take a line onto the attacking unit in front of it. The las cannon squad moved around to address their attackers, and the other dreadnought with the twin-link las cannon pulled through between 2 silos to get a narrow shot, hopefully. On the other side of the board, the quad launchers, all the tactical marines, and the phalanx warders await the impending doom of the next turn. Imperial Fist turn 1 shooting phase. Targeting the Reavers, the dreadnought with the 2 Kiri's cannons managed 8 hits and 3 kills. Also targeting the Reaver squad, the heavy weapons support squad with las cannons managed 4 hits, 3 wounds, 3 kills, including the squad sergeant. 2 of the quad launchers turned around to face the Reavers. Shooting 8 times, they managed 6 hits, but only 1 casualty, as the apothecary surged into action, saving his colleague. The other dreadnought brought its twin-link las cannon to bear on the Reavers, shooting once, hitting once, and killing 1. The tactical squad in Mark IV armour, 10 were able to take a line on 1 of the heavy support marines. They fired 10 shots when, with their disciplined fire, 8 managed to hit, but only 1 kill. So the Imperial Fists at the end of turn 1 have had a reasonable turn. 1 heavy support marine with a missile launcher killed, and 8 of the Reavers. It took pretty much every weapon on that side of the table to do it, but hopefully has blunted some of the impending assault.
Sons of Horus turn 1 movement. The Leviathan drops down in its drop pod, looking to shoot at the tactical squad there. The missile launchers, because they're in their deployment zone, and I've got the Long March Right of War, they get relentless. So they've moved forward, ready to shoot more missiles at the tactical squad. Justarian dropped down, but scattered back about 9 inches, but they're still within range to take some shots at the phalanx wardens. The Rhino with the veteran squad just moved forward, try and get a sneaky shot on that Contemptor. And then the very depleted Reaver squad has moved forward, trying to get a line of sight to charge the quad launchers. First, in the Sons of Horus shooting phase, the Leviathan shoots its 2 Volkite charges in its chest and 2 melters in their fists at the tactical squad. The melter guns completely missed and only got 1 wound from the Volkite, causing no damage. The missile launchers firing their crack missiles at the tactical squad in front of them. 9 shots, killing 5. Next to fire, the Justarian are popping their combi plas into the phalanx wardens. So 1's out of 12, but 4 of them are in. So it ends up being 9 shots, causing 5 wounds, only taking 1 phalanx warden though. The veteran tactical Marines Rhino takes a shot with its multi-melter into the Contemptor's side armour, getting a penetrating hit and taking 1 whole point and immobilising it in. Next to shoot are the Reavers with 8 bolt pistols at the quad launchers. They just bounced off the quad launchers. At the end of the shooting phase, the Imperial Fists need to take a leadership check, which they failed, and run 7 inches towards their own table edge, ready for the Justarian to sweep them up. Sons of Horus turn 1 assault phase. The Reavers are going to try and charge the Rapiers, taking Overwatch, causing 2 wounds, but no damage on the Reavers. It's going to be an 8-inch charge. they make it in. First up to strike will be the Praetor with his Paragon Blade. He has 7 attacks, hitting on 3s, no Mastercrafted, wounded on 2s. So that's 5 wounds. At initiative 4, the Imperial Fists swing back, causing no damage on the Reavers. Next up will be the Reaver with a Power Sword, as the rest of them can't get in close proximity of the Imperial Fist. So you'll be hitting on 4s. That'll be 3 hits, 4s to wound, causing 2 wounds. Great news, the Reavers have wiped out the Rapiers, and now I get a D6 consolidation. So that's 6-inch consolidation. The Reavers spread out after consolidating 6 inches. Not too sure what direction to go in, so I've left my options open. End of turn 1 for the Sons of Horus. A really good turn, trying to whittle down their firepower with the tactical squad running away and the Rapiers being wiped out by the Reavers. I'm really pleased with how that turn went.
Imperial Fist turn 2, starting with movement. All of the reserves came in, so the Sabre Squadron have come in and lined up behind the Leviathan Dreadnought. Across the other side of the table, the Vindicator has come in, taking aim at the Terminators in front of it, and all of the troops around them have moved in. The tactical squad passed a leadership test and have consolidated back into cover. The Phalanx Warders have moved forward to face the Terminators, supported by the Herald and the Apothecary. On the other side of the table, the Dreadnought is still immobilised. The las cannon squad above will be snap shooting in the following turn, having moved back away from the Reavers, and the final reserves, a Flamer squad in a Rhino, have appeared and lined up to take aim at the Reavers. Finally, the Dreadnought with twin-linked las cannon has stepped back, giving itself a better line of sight onto the unit in front. Imperial Fist turn 2 shooting phase. The 2 sabres target the back of the Leviathan with their Anvilus snub autocannons. 4 hits, but only 1 pen, which resulted in a shaken result. The Imperial Fist Flamer support squad target the Reaver unit in front of them, which includes the Sons of Horus Warlord. 21 hits for 11 wounds and 3 casualties. The Rhino fires its twin-linked bolter at the Reaver unit in front of it. 1 hit, but no wounds. The Master of Signals in the movement phase had moved to attach itself to the las cannon squad. They will be snap shooting, but first the Master of Signals called in a danger close orbital bombardment on the Reaver squad. It scattered 8 inches, which was reduced by 5 because of his ballistic skill, centering almost exactly on the enemy warlord. He hit 5 Marines, but with some fantastic cover saves, only actually killed 1. Totally intimidated by the survival of the enemy warlord, the Imperial Fist fired all 5 las cannons snapshots towards him, and nothing hit. The Dreadnought, wearing the heraldry of the Phalanx Warders, targeted the Reaver squad in front of it with its twin-linked las cannon. It hit once, it wounded, and it killed 1 Reaver. The Mark IV tactical squad targeted the heavy support team in front of them with 20 bolter shots snap firing. Some were in rapid fire range, most weren't. For 20 shots, they scored 8 hits and no wounds. The Vindicator targeted the Justarian Terminators in front of it. The shot scattered, meaning that it hit 3 Terminators and the drop pod. It killed 1 Terminator and took 1 hull point off the drop pod. The Mark VI tactical squad has had enough of the Justarian Terminators and has invoked the Fury of the Legion. With the Imperial Fist's bonus ballistic skill, there were 40 shots fired for 33 hits and hopefully a lot of wounds. The Fury of the Legion really was furious. 19 wounds caused.
And 19 2-ups. Here we go. 2 Justarian, 3 Justarian gone.
Great round of shooting from the Tactical Marines, killing 3 of the Justarian Terminators, leaving 1 with only 1 wound remaining. The Phalanx Warders opened fire with their 2 melter guns, scoring 1 wound but to no result. The rest of the squad then opened up with bolt pistols, hoping to preserve their charge, again causing no wounds. Before the Phalanx Warders could even put down their shields and put their running shorts on, the Terminator failed its leadership test and ran 11 inches towards the far end of the table. The Imperial Fists at the end of their second turn are really quite happy. They're still within their castle and there's plenty of sand around them. They have done quite a bit of damage. There's still a few challenges left to face, but they're in a good position to take the next turn from the Sons of Horus.
Sons of Horus turn 2. The Justarian rallied after my appalling bad luck of failing another leadership on the channel. The missile launchers have moved forward just a little bit, making sure Malaga stays in the deployment zone for later. Just trying to get a better bead on some other target. The Melter Vets have arrived in their Dreadclaw, eyeing up the Vindicator. The other Leviathan moved forward into the terrain, ready to assault the tactical Marines. The Dreadclaw has moved, flying over. Wasn't really in a position to do anything, so it's just kind of hovering around at the moment. Now the Reavers and the Praetor have split units. The Praetor is going for the las cannon unit, and the Reavers have jumped down, going for the Flamer squad. The Rhino has shuffled forward a little bit just to get a better arc on the back end of that Contemptor. Sons of Horus turn 2 shooting. The Sons of Horus veteran tactical squad disembarked from their Dreadclaw, levelling their melter guns at the Vindicator, causing 4 hull points, completely blowing it up, taking out 2 Sons of Horus in the explosion, hitting an Imperial Fist but causing no wounds. Next to fire is the Sons of Horus missile squad, using frag missiles onto the tactical squad, causing 50 hits, causing 27 wounds, killing 9. Next up is the Leviathan, shooting into the other tactical Marine. He's only snap firing, but with his melters and his Volkites managed to take out 1 Marine. Next to fire is the veteran squad's Rhino into the back of the Contemptor with its multi-melter, managed to hit and take another hull point off. The tactical veteran squad fires out the top hatch of the Rhino into the heavy support unit of las cannons, hitting 3 times, causing 3 wounds and taking all 3 away, blinding from the vets. Next to shoot is the Reavers using the Death Dealer rule with their bolt pistols on the Flamer tactical squad, shooting 3 times, causing 1 wound, which the Fist saved. At the end of the Sons of Horus shooting phase, 2 leadership checks had to be made, 1 for the Imperial Fist, which they passed, and 1 for the Sons of Horus veterans. They passed also. Sons of Horus turn to assault phase. The Leviathan bundles into the tactical squad, taking 1 out with Hammer of Wrath. The Praetor charges into the heavy support squad, issuing a challenge that the Master of Signals has to accept. Finally, the Reavers charge into the tactical squad with all Flamers. Charging in, ended up getting the Wall of Flame, killing all 3 in Overwatch. Leviathan charges into the tactical squad with 5 attacks, only hitting twice, killing 2 outright. The Imperial Fists are unable to do damage back to him, so they fail their leadership, which the Leviathan manages to catch with sweeping advance and consolidate in 4 inches. With the Praetor assaulting the heavy support squad and the Master of Signals, he goes bundling in with 7 attacks, but he only hits 3 times, killing the Centurion outright and 1 of the heavy weapons teams. The last las cannon ends up swinging back, causing a wound which the Praetor saves. The Imperial Fist ends up failing the leadership, running back 8 inches. The Praetor consolidates 6. Fantastic turn from the Sons of Horus, really making a dent into the Imperial Fist. A little bit down about the Reavers going, but that was a risk anyway. But other than that, I can't complain at all.
Imperial Fist turn 3 movement. The Dreadnought with Twin Link Las Cannon has turned around, hoping to bring his weapon to bear on the back of the Leviathan. The 2 Sabres have advanced forwards 5 inches, lining up all of their weapons on the heavy support squad in front of them. In front of the Leviathan, the Phalanx Warders have spun round, bringing their multi-guns to bear and being ready to advance after that. The Warlord Herald has moved slightly to the centre of the board, holding the ground, supported by the Tactical Squad, who used Fury of the Legion last turn and so are unable to fire this turn. The Dreadnought is still immobilised, so has held its ground. The Las Cannon Marine from the Heavy Support Squad made his leadership test and is now holding that corner, hoping to face the Rhino in front of it. The Flamer Support Squad has moved forward, heading towards the enemy Praetor, and the Rhino that carried them into battle has advanced into the enemy deployment zone. Imperial Fists turn 3 shooting. The last remaining member of the heavy support team brought his las cannon to bear on the front of the Rhino, but sadly missed. Challenged by the vehicle he can only assume is his big sister, the Contemptor brings his las cannon to bear on the back of the Leviathan, takes a hull point off and leaves it shaken. The Flamer support squad has realised that it still can find a lot more trouble left in this game, and so run forwards, challenging either the Praetor or the Rhino in the next turn. The Sabres opened fire on the heavy support squad in front of them with their Anvilus snub autocannons, killing 2. They then opened fire with their heavy bolters, all of which missed. The Phalanx Warders opened fire with both melter guns into the front armour of the Leviathan. 2 hits, one saved by the shielding on the Dreadnought, the other went through, causing a glance. Imperial Fist turn 3 assault phase. The Phalanx Warders decided to charge the Dreadnought right in front of them. The Leviathan's overwatch was ineffective, and they prepared for the actual combat.
Striking at initiative 4, the Leviathan swings in with 4 attacks, causing 2 wounds, which the Imperial Fist passed both their saves.
The Warder Sergeant struck out with his Solarite Power Gauntlet, hitting once for no damage. End of Imperial Fist turn 3. A little frustrating this time. Lots of damage done, lots of good little successes, but none of the major targets that we needed off the table have been killed.
Sons of Horus turn 3 movement. The heavy support squad has just stayed where it is. Left my options open to see whether they go for the Sabres, Contemptor, or go for the back of that tactical squad. The Justarian has wiggled himself forward a little bit, just to see if he can get in the fight at some stage. The Melter Vets have moved up onto the container, trying to get a line of sight on the Herald or maybe the tactical squad. The other veteran tactical squad has jumped out of its Rhino to try and get a shot onto them Flamers before they hurt. The Rhino has gone for another shot, trying to get rid of that Contemptor. He's taken all the turns. Praetor has moved forward to go for the tactical squad, and the Dreadclaw has flown over the las cannon, doing its heat blast to try and take him out. The other Dreadclaw has flown, trying to see if I can get to that Rhino before the end of the turn. At the end of the movement phase, the heat blast has wiped out the last of the las cannon support squad, so that's a bonus. Sons of Horus turn 3 shooting phase. The veteran tactical open up on the Flamer squad at the back there. 20 shots, hitting 19 times, causing 9 wounds, killing 2. The Rhino opens up onto the back of that Contemptor. It's been shooting at it all game, and it's finally taken the last hull point of it, blowing it up, causing 3 wounds on the veteran tactical squad, which they all managed to pass their saves. The Sons of Horus missile launcher squad open up into the Sabres, causing 2 hull points and shaking the front Sabre. Melter Vets for the Sons of Horus jumped on the container to open up the melter gun and bolt into the Herald. Managed to get one shot from the bolter, but more importantly, one shot from the melter. Both wounding, wiping him out. Got Warlord, yes. Before the Praetor charges in, he tries to have a sneaky throw of a grenade into the Mark 6 Imperial Fist tactical squad. It just bounced off their armour. It's worth a shot though. Sons of Horus turn 3 assault phase. Praetor jumps into the tactical squad of the Imperial Fist, taking Overwatch. Only caused one wound, which blinked off his armour. The Leviathan swings in with 4 attacks into the Phalanx Wardens, hitting twice, causing 2 wounds, which one of them was saved by the Phalanx Wardens, killing one outright.
The Warder Sergeant struck back with his Solarite Power Gauntlet, bouncing off the kneecap of the Leviathan and doing no damage.
After that combat between the Leviathan and the Phalanx Wardens, the Sons of Horus won combat, but the Imperial Fists pass their leadership and stay in there solid. The Praetor bundles into combat into the tactical squad, issuing a challenge to the Imperial Fist Sergeant, which was accepted, swinging in with 7 attacks, hit him 5 times, killing 4, including the Sergeant. The Imperial Fists swing back with their attacks, causing 1 wound on the Praetor, which ends up being the Praetor wins the combat, the Fists fail their leadership, and the Praetor manages to get them in a sweep, consolidating 6 inches. Another amazing turn from the Sons of Horus. Brilliant result clearing the Warlord, and the Praetor going through that tactical squad, absolutely blinding. Just wish I caused a little bit more damage to the Sabres and the Leviathan's still stuck in combat, but other than that, I cannot complain.
Imperial Fist turn 4 movement phase. The Flamer support squad has moved forward to attack the Sons of Horus tactical veteran squad in front of them. The Phalanx Warders remain locked in combat with the Leviathan, but the Dreadnought behind has moved up, hoping to join that combat. The 2 Sabres have advanced, aiming at the enemy flag bearer and the heavy support squad it accompanies. Finally, the Imperial Fist Rhino has tried to find a parking space somewhere in the deep desert. Imperial Fist turn 4 shooting phase. The Sabres attacked the heavy support squad in front of them, 1 snap shooting, 1 firing normally. All of the shots failed to achieve anything at all. The Flamer support squad fired into the veteran tactical squad in front of it, hitting 27 times, wounding 13, and killing 4 Marines, including the Sergeant. The veteran tactical squad passed its leadership test on a double 1. Imperial Fist turn 4 assault phase. The Contemptor came up behind the Leviathan, made its charge with plenty of space to spare, but its Hammer of Wrath did nothing. On the other side of the board, the Flamer support squad decided that barbecuing the Sons of Horus was fun, but it would be much more fun to skewer them and move forward, making their charge easily. Combat between the fire support team and the veteran tactical squad. The Imperial Fists hit first with 18 attacks, 9 wounds, and 2 casualties on the other side.
In response, the Sons of Horus veterans attacked back with 18 attacks, the same as the Imperial Fists, only hitting 8 times, causing 3 wounds, but did take down 2.
Combat is drawn. The Imperial Fist Contemptor came up behind the Leviathan, striking out with the Power Fist, 4 attacks. Against the front armour, the roll was insufficient to do any damage.
The Leviathan swings back into the Contemptor, trying to get some retribution on his fellow brother. Swings back with 4 attacks, only hitting with 2, but one of them causes a pen, which immobilises the Contemptor.
The Warder Sergeant strikes out at the Leviathan with his master-crafted Solarite Power Gauntlet. Despite that, he only hits once, but it does penetrate.
I need this 4-up to save the Leviathan. Ready? Boom! He gets it.
Despite losing the combat by 1, the Phalanx Warders will continue as they pass their leadership test, and combat will continue. A frustrating turn. It would have been great to resolve this combat in the middle of the table, but damage done elsewhere, and not a terrible ending to the turn, locked as we are going forwards.
Sons of Horus turn 4 movement. The Justarian Dreadclaw has flown over the Rhino, causing a glancing hit with its Heat Blast. The other Dreadclaw has just moved 12 forward, ready to fly over the Rhino again in a later turn, hopefully. The Veteran Tactical Squad is locked in close combat with the Flamers. The Rhino has moved 12 inches into no man's land. The other Veteran Tactical Squad has just moved in to try and hold the centre. The Leviathan is locked in combat, but the Praetor has come to aid him. Hopefully, the Justarian has moved up to join the assault later on. The missile launchers with Malagursa Twisted is still holding the line. Sons of Horus turn 4 shooting. The missile launchers open up into the sabres. 7 of them shot. 6 of them hit. No damage from them though. It's a bit of a shame. I was hoping to clear at least one of them. Sons of Horus turn 4 assault phase. Only 2 charges this turn. The Justarian bundles into the Phalanx Wardens with a 6-inch charge, and the Praetor just stumbles forward just like a boss. Starting at initiative 5 with the Praetor, he jumps in with his 7 attacks, hitting 5 times, killing 2 of the Phalanx Wardens.
Striking at initiative 4, 3 Phalanx Warders and the Apothecary respond to the Praetor's attacks. They lash out with 5 hits, 4 wounds, all saved.
Also at initiative 4, the Justarian swings into the challenge with the Warden Sergeant, swinging with his Lightning Claw, 3 attacks, only hitting once, causing 1 wound, which bounced off the armour.
Due to being immobilised, the Contemptor struck out with only 2 attacks from its Power Fist into the back of the Leviathan. It hit twice, caused 1 whole point of damage, but this was saved by the autonomic shielding on the Leviathan.
Attacking back, the Sons of Horus Leviathan goes into the Contemptor with its 4 attacks, hitting 3 times, causing 3 penetrating hits that the Contemptor was unable to save, ended up destroying it. I wasn't able to blow it up though.
The 2 remaining Phalanx Warders struck out with their power axes, 1 attack each. They both hit. 1 managed to cleave a wound off the Praetor, but it was saved. The Warder Sergeant struck the Terminator in front of him with the Solarite Power Gauntlet, finally ending this combat. Struck twice, hit twice, wounded once, and killed the Terminator.
The combat between the Sons of Horus Praetor and the Imperial Fist Phalanx Wardens ended up the Imperial Fist losing by 3, which they failed their leadership, and the Praetor was unable to sweep them, so they end up running away 4 inches. The Praetor consolidated 3, Leviathan consolidated 2. Finally, the combat between the Sons of Horus Veterans and the Flamer Squad. It's marine on marine. It's ended up in a drawn combat. End of Sons of Horus turn 4. This is going fairly well at the moment. I'm a little bit nervous that it can go wrong, but I look to be in a good spot. With the Phalanx Warders running and that Leviathan coming out of combat, it is looking quite good.
Imperial Fist 5th and final turn movement. The 2 Sabres have chosen to disengage and make a break for the enemy deployment zone. The Phalanx Warders have moved into the centre ground in the hope of taking out the other scoring unit of Veteran Tactical Marines. The Rhino has moved up the flank, hoping to contest the No Man's Land, and the Flamer Support Squad are still in combat, locked with the Veteran Tactical Squad. Imperial Fist turn 5 shooting phase. The Phalanx Warders prove that they really are best holding axes and not guns, as they fail to secure even a single hit on the Tactical Veteran Squad they faced. Both of the Sabres have moved flat out towards the table edge, securing the enemy deployment zone, or at least contesting it, and on to combat. Imperial Fist Combat, turn 5. The Flamer Support Squad strikes out at the Tactical Veteran Squad opposite them. 8 attacks, 5 hits, no wounds.
Sons of Horus Veteran Squad swing back with 12 attacks, hitting 5 times, causing 2 wounds, which were both failed by the Imperial Fists. They managed to pass their leadership check, so they're still staying in combat.
End of Imperial Fist, turn 5. It's not been brilliant, but the Fists have hopefully secured some points as they've moved away. Lost to combat, and things aren't looking great.
5th and final turn for the Sons of Horus. The Leviathan has stepped over the wall to get a bead on the Phalanx Wardens. The Praetor has just shuffled just to stand in front of them and try and get away from that melter gun on Overwatch. The Veterans have moved up closer to Pride Rock to claim the centre objective. The other tactical squad has... I've jumped ahead.
So just start with the Rhino.
Yep. The Rhino has moved up to get its multi-melter and combi bolter in range of the Phalanx Wardens. The Veteran Squad is still stuck in combat with the Flamers. Both Dreadclaws have just shuffled around. They haven't really got any targets to fly over. Sons of Horus turn 5 shooting. The combined firepower of the Tactical Veterans and the Rhino shot into the Phalanx Wardens. It was only the multi-melter on the Rhino that managed to take out the Apothecary of the Phalanx Wardens. The Sons of Horus Leviathan opens up with its 2 melters and its Volkites into the Phalanx Warden squad, killing 2 Phalanx Wardens and the Phalanx Warden Sergeant. The Sons of Horus Heavy Weapons squad only can manage 5 missile launchers into the Sabres, which only caused 2 penetrating hits, which he managed to save with the cover save. Sons of Horus turn 5 assault phase. The Leviathan charges in. Overwatch, one of the melter guns managed to hit but didn't manage to penetrate. The Leviathan comes charging in with 3 hammer rafts, managing to kill 2. Then the Sons of Horus Praetor declares a charge, manages to get a whopping 10-inch charge, bundles into the last Phalanx Warden. The Sons of Horus Praetor just sliced through the Phalanx Warden and consolidated 6 inches back into the centre. The Leviathan had the same 6 inches guarding the Praetor. The combat between the Sons of Horus Veterans and the Flamer squad. The Sons of Horus managed to cause 1 wound, killing one of the Flamers. They was unable to do anything in retaliation, but they passed their leadership and combat continues. That's the end of the game. The Sons of Horus put up a fantastic fight, and now we're going to tot up victory points.
Sons of Horus, Imperial Fists. What one hell of a game. Gentlemen, I'm tired, I'm hot, I'm bothered, I'm emotional, but I'm excited.
That was a lot of fun, that game. My Praetor was a little bit of a beast.
He was a beast.
But yeah, no, that was a great fun game. I enjoyed that a lot.
I think hot and bothered and emotional probably is the best summary. But yeah, absolutely fantastic game. Probably the most fun game of Heresy I've ever played. Great opponent, really interesting lists to see facing off against each other. And especially, the Praetor was a beast, but actually the most significant damage on the board was done by units that most people would dismiss or take as tax units. So really good fun seeing them doing stuff.
Yeah. I mean, if we look at the battle as a whole, the Imperial Fists were corralled right around the centre of Pride Rock, as we're calling it now, and they were quite a formidable force. And I was really worried that the Sons of Horus were not going to be able to break into that virtually impenetrable wall of the Imperial Fists. And especially after first turn, where the Reaver squad got virtually knocked out, didn't they? But it was the Praetor. I mean, he saved that right-hand flank or the left-hand flank, didn't he?
Yeah, I was very nervous after the amount of damage that happened after the first 2 turns for the Reavers. Where basically, I was just left with the Praetor, and him managing near enough going from one end to the other of the table.
Yeah,
he was on form.
I mean, he did a great job. He picked the key targets. The Rapiers were going to be a massive issue for you.
Yeah.
And then he bounced into the las cannons, which were going to be a massive pain. And then just taking on that big tactical squad. I mean, that's what the Imperial Fist had in abundance, was numbers, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think chewing through... I mean, both tactical squads in different turns took, 8, 9, 10 casualties per squad and still had a full team's worth. But it just wasn't enough. I think, maybe next time... fewer men in the unit, adding multi-bombs and some heavier gear. Sometimes numbers just aren't enough when there's 7, 8 attacks coming off a character.
Yeah, it certainly would have given a bit more utility against the more armoured targets if you'd had some melter bombs as well. But it's always hard to... You want a generic list, but you want an effective list. You either pair them with a unit they can support, but if they're not supported, they need to stand their own ground. So it is a bit tricky. It's the art of list building, isn't it, in Heresy? I think one of the moments that really stood out for me was the combat in the centre of the Phalanx Warders, the Leviathan Dreadnought, then the Contemptor from Imperial Fist piled into the back of the levy, 1 whole point to take, and he was not up to the job.
He was just dangling in the wind with nothing to say for himself.
The more and more that combat was going on, the more and more nervous I was getting, and thankfully he managed to waver the punishment that he was dishing out.
It was unbelievable. Before we go any further, though, we should do the victory points. We should have done these perhaps a little bit earlier. And we'll start with the Imperial Fists. Unfortunately,
Won't take long.
Neil Poir, you're yet to score. Made a great play at the end of the game with the Sabres to try and capture the enemy's deployment zone, but Malaghurst is a scoring unit, and he denied that point. Other than that, there's not many fists left on the board able to score. So Neil Poir for the Imperial Fist, but the Sons of Horus, the beast that is Keith Townsend, he scored 7 points for capturing the enemy's deployment zone, which was the centre of Pride Rock, right in front of that building. Last man standing, slay the warlord, boff, 9-0. Congratulations.
Yeah, I don't think the score actually shows how tense that game was on both sides.
They never do.
It's just an amazing game, a lot closer than the scoreline tells.
I mean, I think the fact that 3 of the deployment zones are contested at the end of the game, admittedly only by 5 models across the whole board, reflects how close the game at times felt. Yeah. But no, fantastic victory, well earned.
It was a really tricky one. You play ambush. Nobody likes playing ambush because you're in the middle or you're on the side, so you get bugger all forces coming in either end or whatever happens. But then if you do play Tide of Carnage, you've then got to work out the deployment zones, and it's really tricky mid-game to work out, right, is that No Man's Land, is that my own deployment zone, is that the enemy's deployment zone? It's really tricky, but I think because of the way the board was set up, it was quite clear to see where it was because there was kind of a central point and the bits on the edges. So I think it kind of worked, but an absolutely thrilling game. I really, really enjoyed it. Let's move on. Keith, is there a man of the match for you?
So we was having this discussion. I mean, the Praetor was brilliant.
Yeah.
But it does have to be the multi-melter on the Rhino.
Yeah.
Because...
Oh, he's getting all choked up.
It's an emotional time.
It is.
Yeah. So everyone knows if you take a multi-melter on a Rhino, it's normally a multi-miss. And he actually managed to take out the Contemptor and then move up, pop the Apothecary in the Phalanx Wardens.
That was a great shot.
So then all of a sudden it become easier for the Praetor to come in.
Yeah.
So, the Rhino, the humble Rhino, has got to have my man of the match.
And Nick, what about the fist? What do you got?
I think probably the humble Flamer support squad sergeant. He and his team took out an entire squad of Reavers. They wiped 6 men off the veteran squad, and certainly upset some other people along the way. And he's still locked in combat, contesting a zone. So
yeah.
I think everyone else needs sacking.
Yeah, I think you don't see many Flamer support squads. And I think they did quite well. They moved quite reasonably well, particularly for having template weapons, which they need manoeuvrability. But I think they did really, really well. But yeah, what a thrilling game! And also, if we look back to Nick's last game, the sabres didn't last long. At least they last full term.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they were used better this time,
Mm-hmm.
and using their fast ability to actually be tactically useful felt really good. And I suspect they'll be back for Pride Rock.
Why not? My only question about the Sabre unit is they got dangerously close to the missile launchers. But Keith, whether it was my interpretation, I don't know. But Keith didn't seem bothered because there was other targets in there. But the range on those autocannons, we're always familiar with 48 inches for autocannons, but these are 24. Is that right?
Yeah, and that was quite crippling. I mean, at one point, had they had 48 inches, they could have actually potentially, upset, if not taken out, the veteran unit that was holding the centre ground. It's the only scoring unit, 3 tactical marines effectively on centre ground. And if they'd had the extra range, 4 shots between them, twin links could have potentially done some real damage.
I think they played really well though, because they did come on reserve, and they feel to me like almost like a scout tank. Get around the corner and shoot at stuff and outflank and stuff. So I think they worked quite well. I've got nothing else to say. Is there a final word from either of you about the game? Keith?
It was just an epic game, and we've already spoke about this, but we would love to come back and have a rematch.
Oh, that sounds good to me. Nick, what you got?
Yeah, fantastic game. Thank you to Keith and obviously David. And enjoy your rock. I'll be back for it.
Brilliant stuff. All right, just one final thing before we go. Keith is a member of the Monavale podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about that and where we can find you, please?
Yeah, we was originally a podcast of 4. We are currently down to 3. But yeah, we're a podcast from Essex, and we was releasing weekly up until the mess of 2020. But we are hoping to get back onto a weekly schedule, but they're weekly episodes at half an hour, 40 minutes.
Great.
And yeah, you can find us on iTunes. We are now on Spotify and SoundCloud.
Great stuff. And what about social media? Have you got any following there?
Yeah, we're on Facebook. We have a normal page and a group, and probably the best place to actually look at us or find us is on Instagram, which is at the Mournable Podcast.
Yeah, massive driver of hobby is Instagram. You get to look at lots of lovely pictures from all over the world. And Nick, Captain Fisty.
Absolutely, on Instagram, yep.
Great stuff. Are you working on anything in particular? I know you're having a lot of building work at the moment. So is that hampering your hobby a little bit? Or
Yeah, I spent 2 days sweating it out in London this week, finishing off a couple of models with paint drying even on a wet palette. So looking forward to getting the building works at home finished so I can get back. Working on a full Zone Mortalis board at the moment, and swiftly followed by probably a couple more Spartans.
Excellent. All right. Very exciting. Lots of heresy goodness going on in the community there. Gentlemen, I'm going to thank you once again. Thank you so much for coming over. Nick has a bit of a drive home, but Keith, the lucky bloke, has got my company this evening in the highlights of Huntingdon for a meal, perhaps, if he's keen, if he's not lost 20 stone in weight, because it's so hot in here. But you will be back tomorrow against Alpha Legion with your Space Wolves.
With my Space Wolves, yes.
That is exciting.
Yes, I'm kind of looking forward to it because I don't get to play Alpha Legion that often.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And you've got 2 tanks that nobody knows the name of.
Yep, 2 of the Bombards.
I don't even want to try it. Aquitor.
Yeah.
Who knows? Help us out, please.
Aquafresh.
Aquafresh.
Nice blue stripe.
Yeah. Which I'm quite happy to see how they actually do.
Yeah.
They've got a rule that I haven't seen for years, which is the heavy rule.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to look that up and find out what that does.
It's going to be exciting. All right, well, gents, thank you so much for today. I really appreciate it. You can obviously follow the channel on Facebook and Instagram. It's just at the 30K channel. And if you'd like to appear on the channel in your own battle report, email me, david@3kchannel.com. Thank you for watching.